Shalom, people. This is Brother Loss coming at you with another video. And I'd just like to say something very simple, but I think it's going to be very profound. You are responsible for you. What do I mean? It was some years ago that me and my wife made a video about, growing up in the 70s, how in the 70s, a lot of the situations that black people find themselves in today, we were dealing with back then. We were dealing with the fact that they were having problems with the oil. Nuclear war was on the horizon because of what was going on in the Middle East with Israel and the Arab nations and Russia threatening to help Egypt and the Suez Canal and all these different things. We had the Bush wars that were going on in Africa, where clearly the Western powers were causing problems on the continent, and the African nations were fighting back. They were fighting back, and it was chaos everywhere. There was talk of back then. It was not talk of so much global warming, but they thought that the planet was freezing. Right? They thought it was going to be a big freeze at that time. So we was having environmental toxin situations that was going on, like with the Love Canal and 3 Mile Island. All that stuff was going on in the 70s, and there was an eagerness for black people back then. Now was that were in the Christian church, was the talk of the rapture. Jesus has got to come back and get us and whatever, and evangelicalism and political parties. All this stuff was going on. It was just a hodgepodge of stuff. Protests, riots in the street. You had stuff that went on at Kent State with the students getting killed. You had riots and all this kind of stuff. You had white supremacy. You had black nationalism with some black national gang groups, doing bombings and robbing banks and all this. It was all the same things that's going on right now, except it was not getting the news feeds like we are today. You had to read about it in the newspaper, but what it brought about was a thought in the minds of some people that, okay, what are we going to do in the meantime? That's when you had the rise of prepping, right? You had the rise of people having these bunkers, not just for nuclear war, but also for some other kind of apocalypse that was happening. You had the late great Planet Earth with Hal Lindsey. You had to talk, like I said, that Yeshua was getting ready to come back because what was happening in Israel and all this kind of stuff. And then in the midst of all this, you had the fact that it was some black people that was congregating together and say, you know what, we need to get out of this place. We need to either go back to Africa, or we need to go into Central America, South America. So you had these little groups that was going here and there, whatever, and piecing themselves off. We did have the Benin people back in the late 60s that finally migrated over to Israel and the Negev Desert. But when everything, the dust settled down, like I said, they had these little compounds, these little groups that isolated themselves off from everybody, and lot of bad things happened. We know what happened with the thing with Jim Jones down there in Guyana, where he told people we need to get out of here, and he took 800 and something of our people down there. but that there were others. There were other groups that was doing these different things like that. Some of them, succeeded. You had Love City here in North Carolina. That went bankrupt or whatever. You had a lot of things where people was, trying to get together and piece together, right? And the key thing again was people had to understand that you are in charge of your own destiny, right? And I know people are gonna say, but isn't Yah in charge of your destiny? Yes, but what ends up happening is other people in your life who say they speak for Yah or God, if you call them that, are speaking. It's not the Most High speaking to you and then you saying, hey, this is what the Most High is saying to me and my people, that either we need to stay put here or we need to go here. Because I'm telling you, with all this stuff going on, it's going to be people that's going to step into your life that's going to say, you need to put your destiny in my hands and we need to go here, or we need to take the funds that you got so that we can put them here. You need to be aware that you are in charge of your destiny through the Most High. Because when it's all said and done, right, if, the Most High extend his mercy to Babylon, he can do that. He did it to Nineveh. What are you going to do if you take and you just will roughshod? Believe me, I'm praying, I'm fasting, and I'm asking Most High, please, it's time for us, I believe, for us to go. But I'm sure it was people back in the 70s that were saying the same thing and put forth all this, and because they didn't see that the Most High was like, no, I got to give this thing some more time. They squandered a lot of their time here, right? We got to understand, and I had to learn this for myself. I learned the hard way. You got to learn how to occupy until he comes. You got to live with the expectation that he is going to come right now. Ain't nothing stopping him, but also that it's his sovereign will that if he so chooses, his time is not our time. And when he say he's coming, and right now he is coming right now. But in his right now could extend for 1,000 years, because the Bible said theirs is 1,000 years to him. 1,000 years is a day to him. So we have to be weary of that. I'm living with the expectation that, whether you want to call it an Exodus, because some people are saying now they don't believe that the second Exodus is a quote unquote biblical prophecy. Some people are saying they don't believe the 400 years is a quote unquote biblical prophecy. I could say this. He says that you can manifest stuff with your mouth. That maybe the Exodus and all these things was not so much of a hard prophecy per se, but that our people calling out and asking for this, that for his great mercy and grace, that's what he is going to do. Because remember, the Bible said that we shall not see him again until we say as a people, as a nation, blessed is he that cometh in the name of Yahuwah. So one could possibly say that it never could be a escalation of us getting ready to get out of here until we understand that it's got to be at least a certain amount of us that comes together with that repentance and crying out to the Messiah and asking him to forgive us of the sins of our forefathers and our sin and come back and get us. That would activate just like with Nehemiah and Ezra, where especially Nehemiah, when he went to the city, he cried and he mourned and he fasted and he did all these things because he understood the time for them to leave out of Babylon had passed and nobody was moving like with the expectation because they had got comfortable in Babylon, and he wept and moaned for it. And finally, when they did get there, things were slowed up with the surrounding nations that didn't want Israel to build back up, right? And so that Ezra moaned and wept that the people that had got to Jerusalem had kind of got complacent in their degradation and the place looking as bad as it did. Sort of like the ghettos and stuff that we live in today. People kind of got used to the chicken grease that they poured in the garbage can when the garbage man dumps it into the garbage truck and it spills all out on the street, and the street get greasy and people bust glass and throw cans and throw dirty diapers and wild dogs running around the neighborhood. Then kind of got used to it. That's kind of the situation that Jerusalem was in, and people in Babylon was like, man, I'm living high on the hog. I ain't thinking about going back there. And the people that had got there had got into like, well, we're gonna, set up our little shop and make our money. And some of them that went into trying to make money and make a living was borrowing from their brother. And the Bible said that some of them that put themselves into indentured servitude to their brothers, that when they got to such a point that they start selling each other into slavery. You understand what I'm saying? So we have to be careful of this mindset that we do have to understand that we got to occupy till he come, but we also live with the expectation, but that we got to be careful. We just got to be careful because, again, you are responsible for you. When it's all said and done, if stuff don't work out the way some people are saying, and you putting forth this effort, this time, this money, or whatever, when it don't go down, you are responsible for you. When I was in these crazy Christian churches, and it was like, we got to get the word out. Yeshua's coming back. We got to get the word out, and you got to take all your money, your time, your energy, or whatever, your family, or whatever, sacrifice it to get this thing out. And you start getting out there, passing out tracts, beating the street, all this other kind of crazy stuff, right? Not putting money aside for your kids to go to college because you're saying, well, he coming back. They don't need to know nothing about this world. They just need to know about, Yeshua making all these foolish moves, right? Not getting no health care because I'm getting ready to get out of here. Why do I need to invest in life insurance? Why do I need to do this right here? And then you look at 5, 10, 15 years going by, and then you be like, man, where did the time go, man? I'm looking bad. And then when Most High decided to extend His grace, but there's been others that were saying all these things, but that they were setting theirs aside. You're gonna look at them, and they're gonna look at what you looking at me for, brother. You should have made plans, provisions for the contingency plan. You see what I'm saying? So you are responsible for you. If you find yourself in this situation a few years from now, if you're watching this video, I pray that we don't find ourselves watching this video in a few years. I pray that the Most High will, send us out. But we got to understand that I believe, and I keep saying this in all my videos, that it's got to be the Most High that's going to restore to us a pure language. It's got to be the Most High that's going to be the catalyst to us coming back together. Because if it's any amount of human ingenuity that we can look at for this thing, that we'll go back to the same way we were. And I think the Most High wants us to be into that state of desperation to get out of here. And I think he gonna make it almost from day to day, where he kind of get you off. We already seen the thing of the 1619, right? Where some people said, well, okay, You know, and I was saying it also. I said I definitely didn't believe that Yah was going to return back in 1619. I believe that just like he said, the nation or the nations that, you know, got us, he would start judging them. Now the point was, how long is the judgment going to be on these nations? I still believe that it is a process, a judgment, right, that is going to be on the different nations. And that, yeah, you could possibly, you know, get enough people together and go over to Africa, but I believe nothing is going to be really solidified and set in stone until the judgment of the places that held us captive for us to be released officially by the Most High and to go. It'll be more or less like when Moses tried to free the people in Egypt. He didn't. He caused more problems than anything. He ended up fleeing. He got his freedom away from Egypt in another land, right? In the Sinai Peninsula, right? He got his freedom there, but it wasn't what he thought. It was a preparation time, and it was what 40 years. It was almost 40 years that he was off in the Sinai Peninsula somewhere with the Midianites until the Most High sent him back. So you can imagine that in between that time, that those people was, you know, thinking, hey, it's time for us to be free. From that time that Moses fled, it was another whole 40 years, right? Until he came back, right? And did what he did, and how many years it was, because I believe it wasn't like they showed in that Charlton Heston movie, which we got to get that movie out of our mind. It wasn't something that happened over a few a week or a few weeks or even a few months. I'm of the mind that it probably happened over, if not a year, at least maybe 2 years, right? That's what I'm believing. You know, there's no proof of either way, because a lot of times Yah doesn't give us the details about that. But the point is, it could be another 40 years, but that's nothing to the Most High, right? It's nothing to him. So we got to be understanding that. We got to be leery of that and ask the Most High, please don't, whatever you do, don't let me get off where I'm going to leave my family slacking, or I'm slacking, right? And not understanding that I must learn how to occupy. I must, yeah. My goal is to visit the African continent. I I believe biblically, definitely it is the land of Ham, but I do believe it is a stepping stone for us to get back to the original land over there. But I don't believe it is the land, because see, that is another thing. Some people are believing that that's that's the land. The only question I would have about that is, if we know that there are Yahudim or Jews and Hebrews that's over there in the land, then what was the prophecy about us being kicked out of the land if we still got people in the land? It doesn't jive at all. It doesn't jive. He said, that the land, just like us being desolate, the land will be desolate. All you had to do is read Genesis 9 and 27. He said that Japhet would possess the tents of Shem. And at one time, yes, the colonizers had colonized the continent of Africa. But last time I looked, even when they had colonized Africa, the Africans were still there. They were still there, and they did end up leaving. Although they do have instances of people that still somewhat control those countries, the people that's over there still have a whole lot more leeway to do certain things the way they want to do things, because that is their country from head to toe. When I was in Kenya back in the 90s, from top to bottom, that nation, you can say whatever you want to about the British government still having somewhat control. You can say all you want to about China having somewhat control. That when I was there, that country was ran from top to bottom by black people. So we know that Japhet is not and has not possessed the tents of Ham. They haven't, because you can look all across Africa. The tabernacles of Ham is Africa. Our people over there, our people do have some nations that they're in, but there's such an intermingling and a thing over there that like I said, that's not our portions of the continent of Africa is our land. There's no doubt about it. But the point I'm trying to make is that's read the Bible for ourselves. Let's not try to make things too complicated for ourselves with this understanding of the end times that we're living. That y'all can do the same thing he did with Nineveh and give Babylon a reprieve. You understand? I believe things could have definitely came crashing down. You know, after the Civil War, Most High didn't allow it. Even after 12 years, when it seemed like we was making great progress, everything come falling flat on its face after 12 years when the Union Army moved up north and left us, our ancestors down here to the south, to defend themselves against the Klan and other groups that hated us. And so we just gotta be aware of that, right? As we go forth, that we learn still. We gotta occupy. We come. We got to definitely be wise as a serpent, harmless as a dove. We definitely got to be bold when Most High calls us to do it. You know, whether or not, you know, like say some people say about these camps being out here doing whatever they doing, they're gonna continue to do what they're gonna do. Just like when you was in Christianity and you had people out there downtown that had blowhorns and had passing out tracts and these different things that they stopped letting them do that stuff years ago. But I can remember when they did do that, and you know, I can remember when people used to drive around in the little southern towns, and they would put the speakers on top of their car and say the world is coming to an end. Yeshua's coming back, get your soul right. And I would see people walking around with signs, the end is near, and all these different things. And then, you know, and we understand the scripture where he said we can't go to sleep because we don't want to be like those that say, where's the promise of his coming since our fathers fell asleep? We're not saying fall asleep. We're just saying you are responsible for your own self. And if you look back 15, 20 years later and this thing is still going, you can't blame nobody but yourself. I'm telling you right now, I'm ready to occupy as long as I need to, but I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go whenever he say go. This is what you have to mature yourself into that. And I'm believing that some people don't have that maturity to do that. And you know, you can put your family, you can put your health in danger if you don't have that great thinking, right? Even to the point where you like, you know, hey, you know, schooling and child support and different things like that you gotta you got custody of your child, and you start doing all kinds of crazy things with the other parent, and you said, well, we got to get out of here, they're heathen and all this kind of stuff. No, you can't do that kind of stuff. You know, you can't, and this is why I'm thinking, you know, we got to be careful of this thing, right? Because if you got some kind of the custody thing going on and you just hop off into a foreign country without that other parent who has visitation rights and stuff, is that really of the Most High? Is that really of the Most High for you just to jet off somewhere without giving them access or whatever? And we see these Amber Alerts, and we be like, hey, right? They find out that most of them, and sometimes maybe for good reason, if the child was being abused by the other parent and the court wouldn't listen, and maybe the other parent got desperate enough to grab them and take them away or whatever, never to be found again because they didn't want to go back. I can kind of understand that to a certain extent, but I'm saying whereas none of that going on where that child isn't, but then you just angry with that other one and you say, well, Most High said we gotta go here, we gotta go there. I'm just gonna up and grab this child and I'm just gonna go, and the devil with that person's visitation rights and all this other kind of stuff. That's not of the Most High. We gotta think about these things. He said, in business be men, and he said strive lawfully. Strive lawfully. You know, some people are thinking, you know what, if the Exodus is getting ready to come, you know, all these credit card bills and different things that I got, I'm just gonna stop paying them. I'm just gonna stop paying my taxes. If you go to jail or you go to prison, you ain't gonna be able to go to some of these people that told you this, that, and other, whatever. It's gonna be on you. You gonna be responsible for that. You gonna be responsible if you stop making payments on your car and your car get repossessed. And you be like, I thought it was time for the Exodus, man. I lost my car, I lost my house, I lost. You gonna be responsible for that. You are responsible for you. You better understand this word for you, right? Remember what Yeshua told Peter when he seen John, you know, leaning on Yeshua, right? And John said, what is this, Most High, that I heard that John is going to stay alive on this earth until you come back, right? He said, what is that to you, right? Don't you worry about what John is doing. You just do what I told you to do, right? What is the Most High telling you to do? Not what he's telling others. He could be telling others to go over to certain places. He could be telling others to say this or that. He could be raising up others for this. But what is he telling you? Right? This is a great problem with the Christian churches, because when you sign over your freedom to some of these churches, these pastors, you took on their vision, but not what they said it was a church vision, but actually was their vision, and then that vision included their family. It didn't include yours or the denomination. Some people to put their denomination, or some people to put their politics into all this thing. It's people to put their politics into Obama getting elected and thought that he was going to do certain things when he got in. They said, we helped elect the first black president, but what did he get done? They're going to go back to their neighborhoods and looking at these places where the city that Barack Obama came out of, and understanding, man, the conditions in these cities are worse than they was even before he took office. It's worse, right? So how do you think those people feel? So be understanding of what the Spirit is saying to you. I'm not saying that we make an island of ourselves in that sense, but we got to be careful. The Bible said that in the end there will be many deceivers, right? Spotting themselves in your love feast and all these different things. You got to be careful out there, right? And so, yeah, I'm definitely praying. Yeshua, even so, come quickly, right? That's what they were praying back in the day, and they had that great expectation. But they also understood, hey, that the twilight of my life is coming, and I must pass on what I got to pass on to the next generation. That's what Paul was doing when he pulled aside Timothy, right? He said, I know I've been preaching the great expectation of Yeshua coming back, but I'm also preaching to Timothy that, and even into the Ephesian elders, that I'm not going to see you anymore, because he knew, hey, I'm going to die before all this stuff happened. So I'm not going to wait till the last minute. I'm going to go ahead and get y'all instructed. So I'm living for the hope that Yeshua is going to come back in my lifetime, but I'm also preparing you for the time when I'm going to leave and I'm not going to be here. I'm not going to be alive for his return. Not, I'm going. My spirit is going to go into paradise, and my body is going to lay in the ground waiting for them to be reunited. And I'm saying this again, right? Because like I said, it was a great expectation. The world was a really bad place back in the 70s, and people just wanted to get over. They just wanted Yeshua to come back, and they was just so desperate or whatever. And there was a lot of things that was read. And I'm almost tempted to believe that the powers that be allowed a lot of these distractions to come up to get us pulled into that. And some of us got pulled into that evangelical thing, dealing with the TBN and all the CBN and all these other things that was going on, right, with the expectation, until we woke up and realized, man, we sitting here year after year, and they saying this is a sign that the rapture is coming. And then when some of us finally woke up 20, 30 years later, like I said, you ain't got no life insurance, all this other kind of stuff, and then you rushing to get a bad mortgage and stuff because you need a house, and then you rushing to get money, borrow money to get cars and all this other kind of stuff, and put yourself in all kinds of debt. And you see this great credit card scams that went on in the 90s, where they were just sending our people tons and tons of things, right? And so we got to be careful. We can be so easily emotionalized and duped into putting a thing out there in the atmosphere, right, that is not so. So that's all I got to say. You're responsible for you. I know you say, well, how profound is that? I'm telling you because of what happened to me and my family, but the Most High was gracious. He let us get ourselves back on track, although, like I told you in one of the videos, he almost had to just let us fall down the steps and break and shatter everything to get us out of that crazy system, or we would be like some people, dying with nothing, broke, whatever. And he said he don't want that for us, right? So yeah, occupy till he come, but expect his return. We can walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. And I hope, I'm like I said, I'm hoping that, he come, because if we come back, hey, I'm ready to leave all this, because he's saying we got something better. But I know, because it's going to be something very supernatural. It's not going, I don't believe it's going to be, oh, this is 40 easy payment plans to get over to the promised land. And I know that's not him. I'm going to know that's not him, because he ain't going to do that. But it's going to, believe me, there's going to be some people that's going to put forth something like that. And it's going to be some of our people that's going to buy into it and get into debt. And it's going to ain't look pretty. I hope I'm wrong, but I know what I've seen in these many decades that I've been in, just dealing with religion and religious people. So with that, I'm going to ask you to leave a comment. I'm going to ask you to subscribe. I'm going to ask you to leave a comment. Be blessed.